All right. So, um, even though in the US we have encountered a bit of a speed bump in our Me Too movement because of what's happening with Harvey Weinstein, and I do say it's a speed bump because he's not out of the woods yet. It's not like he's walking free. He was released on a technicality in one case. So, for people who are shouting doom and gloom for the Me Too movement, either because you're happy or you're not happy about it, it's just not true. But it turns out France is getting their Me Too movement, finally. And given that they just codified abortion into their constitution, one would be it would be understandable if one didn't think that they needed a Me Too movement, but there are pigs everywhere, so why should France be any different? But anyway, after years of resistance to the fight against sexual misconduct that swept through Hollywood and beyond, the French entertainment industry is only now facing scrutiny. But activists say the battle has just begun. We have to keep banging at the door. All right, let's get to the article. The April 25th decision by the New York Court of Appeals to overturn Harvey Weinstein's felony sex conviction looked like a major blow to the Me Too movement in the U.S. and to the progress made within the U.S. film industry since 2017, when the first allegations against Weinstein were made public, to protect the Hollywood's most vulnerable from harassment and abuse. And as I just said, it's just a speed bump, but it'll be fine. I mean, for those who have to testify again, it's not going to be fine because it was hard enough for them to testify the first time. But he's not out of the woods. In France, they are still waiting for that first wave of progress. The outrage triggered by Me Too echoed across La Grande Nation. It even spawned a French counterpart. Oh no. Balanced pork. I know I butchered that. Or expose your pig. But until very recently, efforts to challenge the structure of the industry came to very little. I wonder if this is going to heavily tread on Depardieu's problems. That, it seems, is changing. U.S.-style measures, including the use of intimacy coordinators for sex scenes or chaperones to supervise the treatment of minors, are slowly becoming standard practice on French movie sets. #MeToo is really at the center of our discussion now, in a way it wasn't 2 years ago, and definitely wasn't 6 years ago, says French producer David Frankel. I guess it took a while for it to cross the Atlantic, but it's here now. Last year, the Cannes Film Festival waved off criticism of its choice of opening night film. My Venice, Jean Dubarry, and I know I butchered that, a period movie starring alleged abuser Johnny Depp as the King of France. This year, Cannes will open its Un Certain Regard sidebar with Moi Aussi, Me Too, a short film about French actress turned filmmaker and activist Judith Godrèche. Yeah. The Man in the Iron Mask. Inspired by the more than 6,000 stories of abuse she received when she first spoke publicly about her own experiences of being groomed by much older directors when she was a teenage star in the 1980s. There have been many watershed moments in France's belated Me Too movement. The multiple allegations of harassment or abuse, more than a dozen women have so far come forward against Gerard Depardieu. I knew that was going to come up. and a documentary expose on the French star called The Fall of the Ogre aired on French TV last December, sparking widespread outrage. Although Depardieu still has his fans, including French President Emmanuel Macron, who defended the Green Card, and Cyrano de Bergerac star, claiming he was a victim of a witch hunt. Oh, I'm so glad that Trump reintroduced that word to us. Oh, Lord. Now, I'm not going to say either way whether he did those things or he didn't. I don't know enough about the case, so. On April 29th, the Paris public prosecutor announced it was bringing charges against Depardieu that will stand trial in October on allegations of sexual assault brought by two women who claim he assaulted them on the set of the French film The Green Shutters in 2021. Depardieu denies all charges. Last year, a group of up-and-coming French talents, including Poor Things actress Suzy Bemba and multi-hyphenate Ariane Lapid, whose directorial debut, September Says, premieres at Un Certain Regard this year, co-founded professional support group, the Actors Association, or ADA, to call for better protections on set. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter at the Berlin Film Festival earlier this year, Bemba compared her experience making Poor Things, which had an intimacy coordinator on set, and Catherine Corsini's Homecoming, which did not, and which came under fire in Cannes last year amid reports that young actors, including Bemba, were not properly protected. It definitely made me realize how important it is to speak up when something is not okay or when it doesn't feel good for you. Frankel says a turning point was in 2020 at the César Awards ceremony, France's equivalent of the Oscars, when Adèle Haenel, star of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, shouted "Shame" before walking out in protest when the French Academy awarded its Best Director prize to Roman Polanski, who fled from the United States in 1978 after pleading guilty to unlawful sex with a 13-year-old. Haenel, who has accused director Christophe Rougier of groping and sexually harassing her when she was a teenager, allegations he denies, publicly quit the movie business last year, condemning the French industry's complacency towards sexual aggressors. But when it comes to reigniting the long-dormant Me Too movement and to sparking real change within the French industry, most agree it was Gerd who made the difference. Gerd was a teen idol turned top-billed star who made the move to Hollywood after her performance in Patrice Leconteiz's Oscar-nominated Ridicule caught the attention of LA agents and producers, including Weinstein, who released Ridicule in the States. In 2017, Gerd was among the first group of women to come forward, recounting to the New York Times that in Cannes in 1996, Weinstein invited her up to his hotel suite and tried to give her a massage, claiming, she said, that casual massages were an American custom. George Bush would agree with you. Who can forget when he put his hands on Angela Merkel like he was going to give her a massage? Scared the crap out of her. The French also remember Gerd for her breakout role at just 14 in La Mendiantes. I know I'm butchering this horribly. Or Beggars. And they remember the very public relationship she had with the film's director, Benoit Jacquot, 25 years her senior. It wasn't a secret. The couple bought an apartment together when Gerd was 15, the age of sexual consent in France, and he was 40. I have mixed emotions about this. Number one, it was legal. So technically, nothing was wrong. But, ew. Decades later, thinking she'd put all that in the past, Goodricka returned to Paris to make Icon of French cinema. In the show, a satiric comedy series she created based on her own acting career, she included an episode dealing with her experience as a 14-year-old pulled into an abusive relationship with a film director 25 years older. I didn't use his name because I knew the moment I did, all the talk would be about the abuser, not the work itself, said Goodricka. But a viewer who saw the show alerted Goodricka to a 2011 documentary in which Jacquot admits that their relationship had a transgression. He denies sleeping with her before the legal age of consent at 15, while arguing that making films in France is a kind of cover for illicit traffic. Well, isn't that nice? Watching this man talking about me as if I was just an object, like he was the one who brought me to life, as if he had the sort of ownership of me as a child, it just sort of switched something in me. She tells THR. I'm not going to say her name anymore. Everything I had repressed sort of came back up. Then I was ready to say his name in public. Okay, I'm going to say her name. Goodricka filed a police report against Jacquot for rape of a minor. She filed another against director Jacques Doillon, whom she accuses of having sexually assaulted her during the making of his film, The 15-Year-Old Girl. Goodricka told French radio that during the shoot, in which Doillon plays a father who falls in love with his son's girlfriend, played by her, he demanded 45 takes for a sex scene. Both cases are still active. Both men denied the allegations. And that's just, like I said. Goodricka began to speak up. She addressed the French Parliament and the Senate, labeling the French film industry an incestuous family. She called for a government commission to investigate sex crimes and sexism in French cinema. On May 2nd, Parliament agreed, voting to set up a commission to assess the situation of minors working in the cinema, TV, theater, fashion, and advertising sectors, and to take stock of violence committed against adults within those industries. A second step will be to set new rules to protect workers from future abuse. Goodricka also spoke at this year's César Awards, demanding during the live broadcast of the French industry to decide that men accused of rape no longer rule cinema, French cinema. She received a standing ovation. I just said the things that everybody knows I mean. I was talking to a room full of people, many of whom I know or have been told are abusers, says Goodricka. Things slowly are getting better. Netflix and other global streamers which require U.S. levels of protection on all their sets, including intimacy coordinators, have boosted their investment in French production, increasing the pressure to change. The French Film Board, the CNC, is looking to draft laws requiring a chaperone for minors on set. Other regulations, such as mandatory intimacy coordinators for sex scenes, are expected to follow. There are some positive steps, but there's still a lot of cultural resistance in France, says Paloma Garcia Martins, one of only 2 officially certified intimacy coordinators in the country. France does not yet have its own certification process. People see it as Puritanism, as if we're trying to soften the edges of art, something that is supposed to be edgy. What I say is that some of those edges actually hurt people. And the CNC has a major public image problem in the form of its president, Dominique Boutonat, who is facing criminal charges on allegations of sexually assaulting his godson in 2020. Oh, wow. Boutonat will go to trial in June, has declared his innocence. In 2022, despite the allegations being public, the French government appointed Boutonat to serve as second mandate at the CNC. I understand that at least in the US, you're innocent until proven guilty, but still, if there are these allegations against you that are being investigated or are going to trial, don't you think you might want to hold off on that? I don't know. Just me. I mean, I get that you don't want to nix someone for allegations, but at the same time, it is about renewing a contract. It's not like you just decided, you know what, you're fired. You're just not renewing the contract. Kind of different. People are literally joking about Gudrecha, about having to do abuse and harassment training at the CNC under Boutonat. Well, at least they're joking about that and not the training. Gudrecha says she sees progress, but notes that most workers in the French industry still lack basic protections. Our unions are not as strong as those in America. We don't have all those SAG rules protecting us. In France, you'll have a script, and the scene will say, they kiss and they end up making love, with no details on how the director plans to shoot it. You get on set, and no matter what the conversation with the director was prior to that, he can change his mind and say, you have to get naked. I want you to show your breasts. That's how I see the scene. Maybe you're 15. The entire crew is there. I'm talking about my childhood. This still happens today. Part of the resistance to the Me Too movement in France come from the industry's deep connection to the concept of the auteur. There we go. The idea that a single writer-director is the sole author of a film and should have complete control over their vision. French directors typically have final cut on their movies. Any attempt to influence a director or impose restrictions on what they shoot and how is seen as a state censorship of the most insidious kind. So when Elizabeth Olsen pointed to one of the Wanda outfits and she said, yeah, I'm not wearing that, in France that would be unheard of because that's not the vision. Dude, what the hell? Your vision be damned. Go do porn if that's your vision. We are talking about this process, how to make the experience of making a film better, safer for everyone involved, and it is treated as if it is an insult to the art form, says Martens. There's a kind of cognitive dissonance between the image of the French industry as a group of artists and visionaries and the way people actually do business or create art, which can be very conservative, even reactionary. Maybe that's just my American brain, but those sound opposite. And French cinema, particularly compared with the U.S. industry, is a small world with a limited number of producers, directors, and financiers all working on each other's projects. That makes it harder, says Gudrecha, for victims to come forward. If a group of French female technicians have all been abused by the same guy and they speak out, they're putting their careers in danger because they'll never work for that production company again, she says. Gudrecha believes Me Too won't truly come to France until the CNC takes the approach of other European financing bodies and makes protective regulations a requirement for funding. If you go onto the BBC website, they have a long list of things you have to do to protect children on set. If you want to do movie financed by BBC, you need to follow these rules, she says. I'm basically saying to the government in France, the only way is to make some producers have no choice. They apply these rules on set or they lose money. And that's generally the only way you can get horrible people to change, or at least pretend to change, is hit them in the pocketbook. And, she was saying about how in the US we have unions like SAG protecting minors, and we still had to have a Me Too movement. So you can only imagine how bad things are in France if we're better. Okay, producer Frankel notes 5 or 6 years ago, we would have laughed at someone who asked for an intimacy advisor or coach for children. We've realized that some things were happening during shoots that weren't normal, that weren't fair, and that could be dangerous. In the end, it's insurance for the producers. A few nice words and patting each other on the back won't change the French system, says Goodrecka. To bring Me Too to the birthplace of cinema requires a revolution, which actually should be quite French, she says. A revolution means we have to keep banging at the door, keep up our demands until this whole world, all those who have been so comfortable abusing women and children with no rules and no consequences, finally fall. And that is the end of that article. So yeah, I'm glad to see that at least something good in recent history is coming out of the US. That's good to know, because what I'm hearing is basically fascism. So it's good to see something good is being exported. I believe that is all I have for this article. I think I've said everything that needs to be said. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.